Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to round trip between Premiere or really any NLE and Resolve, and how to decide if you want to export your final project, your final video from Resolve, or if you want to export it from your NLE. So to get started, we're going to start in Premiere, but you can really do this anywhere. I have my project here. It's not really an edit, it's more of just a few clips from this short that I'm working on currently. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the Export tab and export. You could do an EDL, an AAF, or an XML. I would recommend from Premiere probably an XML or an AAF. I'm going to stick with XML because it's easy. And I'm just going to export this here, replace over my test one. And that's that. Now we can switch over to Resolve. Now this workflow is also good for people who were maybe editing with lower resolution or proxy files and want to then color and relink to their raw files or higher resolution files and then conform back their original project with these high resolution colored files. So if that's the case, what you want to do here coming into Resolve is navigate and import your high resolution files, your raw footage, and that way you can color them and bring them back into your project and have them to work with. So now I have all of these raw files from the camera in. These are not all of the shots that are going to be used, but they're just all of the shots that we had. So now I'm going to move over to the Edit tab, and this is where I'm going to bring in my XML or maybe AAF or EDL. So we're going to import that. I'm going to navigate to that. So I saved that over here. Final for Resolve, export. And now you get given this window. Now, usually you can probably just hit OK and keep going. The only reason that you might want to change is maybe your project resolution, but I'm doing mine in HD, so I'm going to hit OK. Now, the reason this came up, and this is kind of how I want to show you how to make the decision as to which program you're going to export from, is the reason this came up is I am going to hit no, and you can see that it couldn't relink one of my clips, and that's because this is a title. So if we go back to my Premiere project, you can see I have this title here, right here. And Resolve doesn't know what to do with that title because the title tool in Premiere is unique and it looks like a clip to Resolve. So for this reason alone, and the fact that I had a warp stabilizer on this clip, and obviously this is no longer warp stabilized, I am going to be exporting from my NLE and I'm going to be conforming into that project so that I can get back these effects. But we'll talk about that when we get to the Deliver tab. So from here we're going to move on to the Color tab, and now we have these shots that we're going to color along with my title, which I don't need to worry about. I can actually go back to my Edit tab and delete that because we're not going to color that. So I'm not going to actually color these, I'm just going to put some crazy looks on them. So now I've colored my footage, I have this crazy look on it, and I'm ready to export. So now is when you need to decide if you're going to be exporting your final video from Resolve, or if you're going to be exporting your individual clips and then relinking to Premiere. As I said before, I'm going to be going back to Premiere because I need to get my effects back in, I need to get my title back in. I just couldn't get it to look right in Resolve. But if it's a more simple project, you can totally just export from Resolve because it's easier. And if you're going to do that, you just can export here using single clip and then choose your video settings. If you're going to web, probably QuickTime H.264, 1080p, one of these two. Usually it'll be 2398, but I'm working on a funky project, so we're doing 24 audio. And then if you just hit browse, you can choose your export location, add to render queue, start render. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the commercial workflow. So I'm going to be exporting my individual clips and then relinking. So I would recommend using a high quality format. So if you're on a Mac, probably ProRes. If you're on a PC, either Cineform from GoPro or DNx HD would probably be the best. All of those are QuickTime. You could also use the MXF format wrapper, but I prefer QuickTime to MXFs. And I'm going to go with this DNx HD 220 10-bit format. If you're doing ProRes, I would recommend at least ProRes 422. Preferably even ProRes 422 HQ or 4444 if you want to retain the most amount of information going into your final export. I didn't have any audio, so I'm going to get rid of that. Because we're doing individual source clips, it's locked into the frame rate that those clips are. Now, this is important. If you're going to need to relink it, you want to use the same source file names. It's really important if you're using proxy files and if you're relinking at any stage in the game that your raw footage, your proxy files, which are just low resolution edit files so that everything runs smoothly and edits nicely, and your color files all have the same source file name and time code. And then you just choose your location. So I'm going to export back to the same drive, this weird Polka project that I'm working on, and I have this color folder here. So this is where I'm going to export my colored clips. And then I just hit add to render queue and start render, and it's going to render these colored clips out to that folder. So now I have all of these clips exported, and I need to go back to Premiere. And so now I'm ready to relink with my other project. So I'm just going to make a new sequence and call this conform. And then I'm going to highlight all of these clips that I need to replace and make offline. Now make sure that you keep them remaining on the disk, otherwise the actual files on your drive are going to be deleted. And hit OK, and now all of these are going to be unlinked, and you just have to relink. Click link media, locate, and then navigate to, so right now I'm in the proxies folder. I just want to go back and go to the color folder and find the file with the same name, select, and now it automatically relinked all of the other ones. And these are my high-res files from Resolve. And you can see that my title is intact, and this effect, because it's one of Premiere's analytical effects, you need to reanalyze that, but the point is I can get it looking exactly the way it looked before I went back to my high resolution footage. I do have one footnote. If you are exporting multiple clips from the same source clip, meaning that they have the same file name because they're from one, say, really long clip, then Resolve is going to automatically overwrite that clip every time because it has the same file name, and you're choosing to export the source file name. The way that you fix that is you go down into more options and you do use commercial workflow and then place clips in separate folders. That way it'll put each clip with its unique time code in a different folder, and that way it won't overwrite if it happens to have the same file name as another clip you're exporting. The only difference with that is that Premiere won't be able to find the other clips automatically the way it did for me. You might just have to go in and link every single one individually, which will take a little bit more time, but you get to relink. So this has been a tutorial on how to round trip between really any NLE that can export XML, AAF, or EDLs, and Resolve, and how to relink from your proxy files that you edited with to your raw files and then color and come back to your NLE. Let me know if you have any questions. Please subscribe.